Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nate the Effing Great, and welcome to day 1 of the 12 days of fantasy bookings, guys. I am indeed going to be taking 12 different situations, either by suggestions or some ideas that I thought up in my head, and I would tell them how I would redo them or guide them into the future, because I am indeed an effing genius. No ding is indeed required. So for this is indeed day 1. As I mentioned before, you guys, it's going to be starting off in a big way with the debut of Valifornia. So a lot of people are probably asking, what exactly is Valifornia? Valifornia is a faction that was created by, as a lot of people might have guessed, SoCal Val, in which she basically had some of the toughest and baddest women, basically almost like a sort of a little bit watered down female version of the NWO. Honestly, I would love to see more from that. So here's the thing about it. I would love to see something like that happen in WWE. It's been a long time since we've actually had the opportunity to see a very dominant faction in WWE, much less a female faction dominating WWE. So guys, how would I book this? WWE, try and do it better. So let's start off with this happening at January. So of course, guys, I'm going to be going through an entire year of doing this, and I think after an entire year it will definitely establish new stars as well as some great things to come. So we start off, like I said, in January. Now originally I wanted it to be just this thing where Val comes in and she just reveals herself as this big name player right off the bat, and then I thought, no, that doesn't really seem right. So I decided to actually do it an interesting kind of way. I'm taking an interesting approach. Do you remember when in 2004, after the Diva search was over, they had Michelle McCool, Joy Giovanni, Amy Weber, they just appeared randomly on SmackDown? Well, I'm going to kind of have something like that, where Val is going to appear on WWE programming as a fashion consultant. Yep, she's going to be a part of Raw, SmackDown, NXT, as well as the first ever NXT UK show, which is going to be taking place in January. So it's one of those things where it would be kind of a very interesting but also a very cool way to start it off. So we built that all around, and she doesn't really reveal herself as who she is until we get to the Royal Rumble. During the Royal Rumble pre-show, we get this announcement that there's going to be a special guest at the suite of the arena, and basically, Byron Saxton, he's waiting, he's ready for this reveal. In comes SoCal Val, and Byron, of course, is the first to be like, well, wait, Val, what are you doing here? I'm expecting a special guest, but, I mean, this is kind of nice to have you here. And Val, of course, says, I'm the special guest. For a lot of people that don't know, I'm actually not a fashion consultant. I'm actually SoCal Val, and I have actually been searching all across WWE for new talent and for new proteges to take underneath my wing. And of course, Byron Saxton, he really kind of takes it lightly until we get a new figure introduced into this equation. That being, a lot of people know her as Sage Beckett, but here she is known as Andrea. So Andrea comes in, and she's basically like SoCal's bodyguard. Now, I kind of want to give her this kind of feel and kind of mystique, kind of like how Chyna was to DX, because honestly, she is going to be the powerhouse of the group. So, I would kind of have her wearing like this kind of, black, tough attire, make her look very intimidating. It just would seem really cool to have that. So during this event, we periodically, not all the time, we just periodically check in with SoCal Val, and she is actually having discussions with, wrestlers from the past. A lot of people, like Victoria, like maybe Molly Holly, throw Jacqueline in there, Ivory, and this would just be me personally. I would throw in Gail Kim. Now, hold on. She will not be in a wrestling capacity, and I know that she's definitely mentioned that she would not go back to WWE. But this is one of those situations where it's like, you know what, she's just going to be coming in for a brief appearance. She's not going to be utilized other than just hanging out with SoCal Val, kind of giving her the credibility to really establish her in the minds of fans as, okay, she knows, these wrestlers. She obviously has some kind of experience with women's wrestling. And obviously they take a vested interest in the females Royal Rumble. So after that, we have the Raw after, and Val comes out and she is saying, that Valifornia is here and Valifornia is indeed going to be taken over piece by piece. And we are looking to add new proteges to this faction. And during this time, also Andrea gets some matches, and she is a very dominant force. A lot of people probably would suspect that, but hey, this is the way I'm booking it, and it's my show, so na-na-na-boo-boo. All right, so Andrea, as far as, of course, how she comes across, she's definitely, again, like I said, a very strong woman. I would love to see her actually do a powerbomb as a finisher, because, let's face it, the only person in the women's roster that's done a powerbomb as a finisher has been Sable, and I kind of want to just associate a much better woman with the powerbomb. So it would be kind of cool just to have her, start doing the powerbomb, maybe like a jackknife powerbomb, maybe a shoulder powerbomb, some sort of powerbomb variation that just is brutal. And this goes on for, Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and NXT UK for the forthcoming months. And one person that Val has a vested interest in is Toni Storm. She's definitely trying to coax Toni Storm into joining Valifornia. She's basically, saying, you want to join the winning squad. And Toni Storm, every time she said, no, I'm not doing it. Nope, I'm not doing it. Nope, not doing it. During this time, she actually gets her second member of Valifornia, and we get a very familiar face and someone who definitely deserves this kind of a rub, that being Chelsea Green. She gets added to the Valifornia roster, and we have Andrea and Chelsea Green building up as a now formidable tag team. So we have Chelsea Green and Andrea having a very good tag team deal. We have still them wrestling single wrestlers for quite a while. Then we go into a show at NXT UK in which we see Valifornia have Chelsea Green as well as Andrea in the ring. She calls out Toni Storm and she says, look, I've tried being nice about this, and I'm going to ask one more time, don't make a mistake here. Join us and be a part of our group, be a part of our family, or suffer the consequences. Toni Storm, she kind of basks in it. She's kind of thinking, well, okay, I mean, when you put it that way. And she just slugs out with Andrea and Chelsea Green, but unfortunately the numbers game is too much. And then we see a familiar face come in to aid Toni Storm, that being Tegan Nox. She returns from an injury, she comes in, she looks like she's going to aid Toni Storm. It's basically a deal where it's like, hey, it's going to be 2-on-2, the battle lines have been drawn, everything seems to be doing very well. Then out of nowhere, BAM! Tegan Nox hits a low drop kick on Toni Storm's knee. Because honestly, you guys, I know that a lot of men like to do like the low blow to turn heel or something like that. This is one of those situations where I would have her do like this low drop kick to the knee. Toni Storm is just holding on to it. Tegan Nox is the final member of Valifornia. The reason why I'm doing this is because it adds a little bit of international flavor to it. Because you have Andrea and Chelsea. You have Andrea, who is full-blown American, if I'm not 100%. Yes, I'm very certain about that. You have a Canadian in Chelsea Green, and you have somebody from Wales in the UK in Tegan Nox. So this definitely shows that Valifornia is not only going to have a really formidable group, but they have different wrestling heritages from different parts of the world. Now, for Tegan Nox's reason, she actually comes out during an episode of Raw or SmackDown, and she says the reason why I am, joining Valifornia is because of you fans. Now, it seems like it's one of those things where, like, well, great, it's a easy way for them to get easy heat. But it's one of those things that it kind of makes sense, because here's the reason why. The first time that Tegan Nox got injured, she got injured, and in the moment, people were definitely, helping her on, showing her support. But then they just kind of moved on. They moved on and they showed full support for Kairi Sane. Second time, they have, her involved in the tournament, but then she got injured, and she once again became some sort of an afterthought to Toni Storm. So it kind of ties in where now we have a actual rivalry between Toni Storm and Tegan Nox, and it actually takes place at the next NXT UK Takeover, in which the two of them have a no DQ, no holds barred matchup between the two of them, in which Tegan Nox picks up the victory. Now we build up to the main roster. Valifornia is slowly getting more and more momentum, so much that they earn a championship match for the Women's Tag Team Championships at WrestleMania. They will be taking on the Riot Squad. Now, for those of you that are curious why I chose the Riot Squad, definitely check out my Evolution fantasy booking, and you'll find out as to why I did that. So we have Valifornia versus the Riot Squad at WrestleMania, and this is a pretty good slugfest. We actually have Chelsea Green and Tegan Nox as the team, and it's basically one of those situations where, the odds are pretty even, but in the end, we see Valifornia pick up the victory in their first huge WrestleMania matchup, in which they are the new Women's Tag Team Champions. So they go on to defend their titles from, from all the way from WrestleMania onwards. They pick up victories over Backlash, Extreme Rules. I'm just kind of making some of these up because I'm not sure what the full-on lineup is going to be for the pay-per-view card. So, we have Backlash, we have Extreme Rules, we could have Payback, we could have something like that. A lot of those other random shows here and there. But that being said, they built all this momentum going into Money in the Bank. And during this time, we see how, in this faction form, we see how heavily pushed Andrea is in this faction. She's the dominant one. She's the one that kind of is a cut above the rest. You kind of still see, really good matches from, Chelsea Green and Tegan Nox, but Andrea is kind of the focus on this whole deal. And also during this, to really get some heel heat, we have SoCal Val just being like, hey, look at my shiny belts. Look at all of this precious jewelry that I have here. She basically treats it like it's a major luxury, and she's basically taking all of the, income and all this bonus stuff here. She's spending on whatever she wants because she's a governess. She is basically showing like, hey, I have all the power, I get all the money, I can spend it how I want. So, obviously, like I said, we build up to Money in the Bank, and we have the Women's Money in the Bank matchup. In this matchup, we actually have Andrea and Chelsea Green involved in this matchup. Now, the reason why that is because while Tegan Nox is doing a great job and building momentum for the WWE UK Women's title, she's building up momentum to earn that spot. We have Andrea and Chelsea Green building up as the two frontrunners to who's going to be the next, women's champion. Now, obviously, of course, I mentioned before that since the tag team titles are going to be kind of floater titles, I mentioned that in my fantasy booking. Again, check that out for WWE Evolution. It's actually pretty cool. So they are, competing on Raw and on SmackDown. They're going to NXT. They even go into NXT UK for a couple shows, building up all of that momentum from there. So they're going in with a lot of momentum here. And also during this matchup, we have, people like Naomi, Natalia, Peyton Royce, Billie Kay, just a lot of women that definitely are deserving of that shot. And the end of the matchup sees Chelsea Green going up to the top. She is just about ready to reach the briefcase when Andrea grabs Chelsea Green, picks her up, and she actually does a power bomb to Chelsea Green, sending her from the ring to the outside onto the other competitors. Now, I think that would be a very safe spot to do, and I think that Chelsea Green could really make that look like it was a brutal deal. So I kind of want to see that now that I think about it. We see Andrea climb to the top of the ladder. She retrieves the briefcase, and she is the winner of the Women's Money in the Bank matchup. So obviously the night after, Chelsea Green is just like, what the hell was that all about? I had that matchup won. I had it won. We see a little bit of tension between Andrea as well as Chelsea Green. But Valerie's just like, hey, calm down, you two. Just remember that it didn't matter who won as long as Valifornia got the briefcase. Now we again hold control of the entire women's division. We have the power. We have all of this, we have this great opportunity to take home a lot of gold here. And of course now we're also at the point where, since they're floating from Raw and SmackDown, the question is Andrea going to be cashing in for the Raw title, or is Andrea going to be cashing in for the SmackDown title? There's that question there, because they never really fully signed onto a full-term contract with either brand. They're just kind of floating. They're just kind of showing that, hey, we could do whatever we want. We're that awesome. So we then have the matchup at SummerSlam. Andrea makes it well known that, hey, I'm going to be cashing in this shot at SummerSlam. She never reveals who it is. So we have the two women's title matches, which I assume are still going to happen. We're going to have the Raw women's title and the SmackDown women's title. And honestly, guys, I would have picked the SmackDown women's title. But the thing is that it does have a little bit more prestige. And it still has actually it's a pretty good lineage so far. A lot better than the lineage on the Raw Women's title. So I'm going to actually have the Raw Women's Championship change hands at SummerSlam, with Andrea cashing in on, we'll say, Sasha Banks. Definitely a big-time fan favorite, and it would be one of those situations where a lot of people are like, oh, boo. So Andrea is the new Raw Women's Champion, and we see again, Valerie is just like, hey, look at this. I got more bling. I got more cool stuff. I got more shiny stuff. That means more money. That means that, obviously, you could definitely see the ego of Val just slowly growing and growing and growing, because she knows that she's got the power. She knows that she has a lot of the momentum going for her. So during this time, we also see a little bit of a gear turning with Chelsea Green, where beforehand, she was willing to do whatever she could to help the team. But we start slowly seeing that after that whole powerbomb incident, something is just kind of rotating in her head. Something is just going on inside her mind. And honestly, guys, when they joined Valifornia, I should mention this, they are very proper. They're very good with each other. They just look really nice, is basically what it's all about. We go into the build-up for a lot of these other events. I think there's like Hell in the Cell, as well as No Mercy, something like that. I don't know. Again, this is just speculation on what is going to be the events going on for that. But during this time, during an episode of SmackDown, we'll say, the Valifornia Nation actually loses the tag team titles when Chelsea Green turns on Valifornia. Chelsea Green will hopefully turn face, and this is one of those situations where I'm hoping it's like with Evolution, where a lot of people were definitely pushing behind Randy Orton, and they were thinking like, well, they're pushing behind Randy Orton so much, and Triple H is saying like, you think that he's going to be the big star, but he's not. Batista's going to be the one that's the big star. So I'm hoping it's going to have that kind of situation where it has that, where WWE is definitely forcefully pushing, Andrea down our throats, but it's for a good reason. It's not one of those things where it's like, oh, we're doing this because this is who you should vote for. This is who you should be a part of. This is the person you should be cheering, and blah 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 blah. No. They're basically saying, no, this is the person you want to boo. We're basically forcing you to accept the fact that this is who is their chosen one, when in fact you have secretly Chelsea Green turning into that second star. So Chelsea Green turns face, and this is where, of course, she turns into the hot mess, and not because she's going crazy. Not because she's going crazy because of like a breakup or something like that. She's going crazy because she wants to be kind of like the anti-hero, where she's basically stating, I had to basically just look like this pripped out prima donna for so long. I had to wear the nice dresses. I had to wear like that. I couldn't be myself. Now I'm given the chance to be myself. I am going to do whatever it takes to take Valifornia down piece by piece. So this is all building up, and Chelsea Green is, of course, getting some good singles matches in, and she's building up to a matchup with Andrea at the WWE Evolution event that would happen that year. So we have that build up there. We have Andrea versus Chelsea Green for the Raw Women's title at Evolution. We have a nice matchup in which we have Tegan Nox challenging Toni Storm for the WWE UK Women's Championship, and we even have a special kind of showcase matchup, maybe you can call it an attraction matchup, in which we have SoCal Val in her first matchup taking on Stephanie McMahon. Basically, how the build-up for this one would be is that Stephanie is just kind of sick and tired of seeing that there's going to be one alpha, female trying to take over her territory. So it's kind of one of those things where it is basically the law of the jungle, where she does not want Valifornia stepping on her property. She doesn't want her stepping on her territory, not unless, she puts up a fight. So basically, we build up, and Val even makes a comment where she says, I could beat you on your best day. So Stephanie says, okay, let's see you do it then. Why don't you take me on at WWE Evolution? So we have Valerie versus Stephanie McMahon at Evolution. And during this matchup is where we would definitely see Valifornia at its finest still. We see Tegan Nox winning the WWE UK Women's title. We see Andrea just barely defeating Chelsea Green for the Raw Women's title. And in the special attraction matchup, we see Val defeating Stephanie McMahon, kind of as a little bit of a nice rub, where she, Stephanie doesn't really give comeuppance to a lot of people, and I think this would be another one of those things where it's like, you know what, it's for a good cause, it's for Valifornia, to really be established as a faction, as a memorable faction, to say the least. And we build that up to a matchup on, I would say, on Raw. Oh, it is on Raw, never mind. It happens on Raw, in which we see Chelsea Green dethroning Andrea to become the Raw Women's Champion. Now, also during this time, Tegan Nox actually separates from Valifornia. The reason being is because now she's at the point where she's saying, I don't need to be a part of your faction anymore. I don't need to be, just held down by you guys. I'm already a champion. I don't need this. So she's still staying explicitly heel, but she is also, parting ways from Valifornia. It's not one of those things where, she's trying to beat up, Andrea or something like that, or it's not one of those things where it's just a random predictable deal. It's basically one of those deals where she just says, you know what? I don't need to be a part of this. I don't need to be in the dressing gowns. I don't need to be like this. I am going to be the champion that I know that I can be, and I'm going to do that in the UK. So she leaves. She's now a part of, NXT UK, and we also get the chance to see, Chelsea Green with a nice little title run. Honestly, guys, that's how I would kind of wrap up the first year of Valifornia. We can still continue on with the story. Honestly, I would have Valifornia still add on new members. It might seem like a bit of a recycled, process, but at the same time, their first year, they gave so much to this. I mean, they got a great, tag team title run. They got a women's title run. You could, again, add more people into the fray, people from the UK. There's a lot of women to go around, and for Val and Andrea, they still kind of stick around. They're not going to be one of those deals where it's going to be like, oh, well, they're turning on each other. It's not like Andrea's going to, do a powerbomb to SoCal Val. No. The main staples of SoCal of Valifornia are still going to be Val and Andrea. We kind of still keep those two together because you have, now this faction that's been well established, and you have all these, younger ladies that are trying to get their spot. Again, you could have Valifornia go to NXT. You could have Valifornia go to NXT UK, maybe to continue the feud with Andrea and Tegan Knox. Maybe they actually turn face. It's just one of those things where you have an established faction, and you could still, keep it going. It's not going to be like, NWO where they just keep, old members and they just add new ones just for the sake of adding new ones. No. There's a reason why they're adding new ones, because of the fact that they want to continue evolving with the times. And obviously, like I said, you would have, Andrea, who could basically be like the forerunner, where she is literally talking and showing the women how to, get their foot in the business. And you also have SoCal Val, who could definitely really show them how to do some really good mic work, because trust me, as a heel, she can do a fantastic job. If you check out a lot of her stuff on Shine, it's absolutely amazing. And honestly, some smaller highlights throughout the year for Valifornia. I would love to see, SoCal Val have a little deal with Paul Heyman, where maybe Paul Heyman kind of gives her the rub, saying, I've never seen a faction as strong as you since, they maybe mention, Nexus, or maybe he mentions the Shield, something like that, where they kind of build that up even more, and they try to give it more credibility. That's just my thought process on it. So that is going to wrap it up for this first day of the 12 Days of Fantasy Booking Series. Guys, hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you love it. There's 11 more that are going to be coming up. It's going to be a lot of fun doing these bookings and talking about all these deals, whether it's movies, whether it's wrestling, just really creating these memorable deals and rewriting some of these deals as only I can as an effing genius. No ding required. Thank you so much, guys. You know how to follow me on Twitter. Definitely comment in the section below what you thought of this. Give this a like. Give it a share. Follow us on Twitter. Give us a follow also on YouTube. So much going on, guys. And I will tell you this, that at the end of the month, I'm going to have a very special announcement regarding the Game Changers presence at WrestleMania. So thank you guys so much, and have a good one. And I will talk to you guys in the next episode. Bye-bye.